Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Narada Uvacha. Nati Chitradidam Vipra Vasudeva Babutsaya. Krishnam Atvarabakam Yana Pachati Shreya Atmana. Shri Narada Muni said, O Brahmins, it is not so amazing that in this eagerness to know Vasudeva asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy. Can someone read the purport, please?
Jiva Goswami narrated Narada's thought. Shri Narada understood how Vasudeva, in line with his mood of pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about Karma Yoga. Although he had already attained spiritual goals, even great yogis and rishis cannot achieve. But Narada was still concerned that Vasudeva might create an awkward mood by treating Lord Krishna as a more child in the presence of all sages. Narada and the other sages felt obliged to maintain their attitude of reverse toward Lord Krishna. So how could they ignore how and pursue to answer toward answer Vasudeva themselves? To avoid this embarrassment, Narada took this opportunity to remind everyone present of Shri Krishna absolute supremacy.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And we have a commentary of Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur. The sages were astonished. Oh, is the father of the Lord and thinks himself fallen in the material world? Or is, if he is asking for the benefit of others, why does he give up Krishna? And why does he give up Krishna and ask us? To answer them, Narada spoke this verse. It is not surprising that Vasudeva, thinking of Krishna as his son, not the Lord, asked what is beneficial for himself, Atmana, from us. So Krishna is just beside him, but he is asking the sages. 31. In this world, familiarity breeds contempt. For example, one who lives on the bank of the Ganges might travel to some other body of water to become purified. So can someone read the purport of Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur? It's on the screen.
Indeed, he knew that Krishna was the Lord from his very birth. By lying close to him, breed familiarity. That is expressed in this verse. Narada knew that the cause of Vasudeva not seeing Krishna as God was Vasudeva Prema. But at that great gathering, he explained things according to the common man's level, not describing the greatly confidential highest truth about Prema. Hearing this verse from Narada, it is certain that Vasudeva would increase his respect for Krishna as the Lord. For men, proximity is a cause of lack of reverence. Anandara.
Familiarity breeds contempt. Yes. And that text 22-23. The Supreme Lord's awareness is never disturbed by time, by the creation and destruction of the universe, by changes in its own qualities, or by anything else, whether self-caused or external. But although the consciousness of the personality of Godhead, who is supreme one without a second, is never affected by material distress, by the reaction of material work or by the incessant flow of nature's modes, ordinary persons nonetheless think that the Lord is covered by his own creations of prana and other material elements, just as one may think the sun is covered by clouds, snow, or an eclipse. So there is a description of what Krishna's consciousness is like, and the only way you can describe Krishna's consciousness is by what it isn't like. That one must be on the level of Krishna consciousness to know how his consciousness is like. It is beyond our capacity to understand. You can describe it by negation, maybe. What it is not like, it is never disturbed by time. It is disturbed by prema, but it's never disturbed by anything material. The Supreme Lord's consciousness is impossible to understand. Ordinary persons, they think of the Lord in terms of their own understanding, who Krishna is. Just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds, but the sun is not covered. Our vision of the sun is covered. We have here the purport. Someone can read the purport. Things of this world.
Things of this world are inevitably destroyed by one means or another. Time itself causes the eventual decay of every created being. A fruit, for instance, which may grow ripe, but then must either rot or be eaten. Some things like lightning destroy themselves as soon as they are manifested, while others are destroyed suddenly by external agents, as a clay pot is by a hammer. Even in living bodies and other things whose existence continues for some time, there is a constant flux of various qualities that are destroyed and replaced by others. Shall I continue, Maharaj?
Yes.
Yes? Shall I continue?
Yes, please continue.
Okay, in contrast to all of this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's awareness is never disrupted by anything. Only out of ignorance could one imagine him to be an ordinary human being subject to material conditions. Mortal beings are covered by their entanglement in fruitive activities and their consequent happiness and distress. But the Supreme Lord cannot be covered by what are in fact his own expansions. Analogously, the immense sun is the source of the relatively insignificant phenomena of clouds, snow, and eclipses, and so it cannot be covered by them, though the ordinary observer may think that it is.
So this was Narada Muni describing Krishna. Now the sages will speak again. Yes, Mother Prabhupada Priya, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm just wondering, why does Narada Muni make it look like Vasudeva is in ignorance when he could have explained it another way? You know, like he could have emphasized that Vasudeva is so absorbed in love for Krishna. But instead he describes it as if Vasudeva was an ordinary person.
Yeah, this hint was given before, because the prema of Vasudeva is confidential, and many of the sages, they are not yet on the level of prema. They are specialized in different aspects of the Vedas. So, and also for the sake of ordinary man, so that they should not think Krishna as an ordinary person like externally Vasudeva seemed to do. Therefore, he establishes, yes, Krishna is yeah, one should not see him as an ordinary person. That it's interesting that, but from what I just said, the hint was given before. That it's confidential. That any further comments on that? There may be other reasons. That
Thank you, Maharaj.
okay, thank you. Then text 34. Sukadev Goswami continued. The sages then spoke again, O king, addressing Vasudev, while all the kings, along with Lord Asyuta and Lord Ram, listened. So, yes, Vasudev, he asked earlier, what kind of karma can remove the reactions of my work in this world? That was his question. Now we will hear the answer. Of course, we know the answer. The answer is worshipping Lord Vishnu. Text 35. The sages said, it has been definitely concluded that work is counteracted by further work when one executes Vedic sacrifices as a means of worshipping Vishnu, the Lord of all sacrifices, with sincere faith. So, worshipping Lord Vishnu. These sages are representing the Vedic wisdom. And they are giving the conclusion of the Vedic wisdom. The Lord is worshipped through the sacrifices. Text 36. Learned authorities who see through the eye of Scripture have demonstrated that this is the easiest method of subduing the agitated mind and attaining liberation, and that it is a sacred duty which brings joy to the heart. That text 37. This is the most auspicious path for a religious householder of the twice-born orders, to selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. So Vasudev's worship of Krishna as his son is already the perfection of that principle. So this is beyond the scope what is included in the Vedic principles. So that is another answer on Mother Prabhupada Priya's question. It's beyond the scope of the Vedic principles. And these sages are explaining the Vedic principles. Of course, Narada Muni is on a higher level, he has the bhakti. But still, he's speaking on behalf of all these sages also. So it's beyond the scope of what is included in the Vedic principles. But this principle for householders is very correct. So I read this verse 37 once again. This is the most auspicious path for a religious householder of the twice-born orders. Selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. So we will read also the purport of 7, which is on the screen. The complete purpose is on the screen. If someone wants to read.
Both Sridhar Swami and Sri Jiva Goswami agree that the ritual karma of Vedic sacrifices is particularly meant for attached households. Those who are already renounced in Krishna consciousness, like Vasudeva himself, needs only cultivate their faith in the Lord's devotees, his deity, form, his name, the remnants of his food, and his teachings as given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, these are the principles of bhakti. Regulate devotional service. And Krishna will make that point also in the 11th canto, where he speaks about, the first he will explain in the 11th canto about the conditioned state, the liberated state of the living entity. And then he will point out, yes, the process of devotional service leads one to the highest liberation. And beyond that practice of devotional service, one goes beyond renunciation when one attains prema. But this regulate devotional service is very important. And this is a practice for householders, but worship of the deity, generally for all devotees. So, in other words, those who are on the devotional path don't have to perform these vedic self-sacrifices in the fire, svaha. Because in the Vedas, so all this, the Agnihotra sacrifice for householders is described, and they must keep the fire going on constantly. It's a whole study that, but this kind of instructions, Sridhar Swami said, that's for attached householders, this ritual karma, but not for devotees. Text 38. An intelligent person should learn to renounce his desire for wealth by performing sacrifices and acts of charity. He should learn to renounce his desire for wife and children by experience family life. And he should learn to renounce his desire for promotion to a higher planet in the next life. O saintly Vasudeva, by studying the effects of time, self-controlled sages would have thus renounced their attachment to household life, go to the forest to perform austerities. So, one should go to a place where time doesn't affect. When one is in a comfortable situation, then the tendency is to get pleasure from it. And that's a problem for devotees. But when one goes into the forest and lives in an austere and simple way, one has to take shelter of the spiritual energy. Otherwise, it makes the heart hard, which is not conducive for spiritual advancement. The purpose of austerity is to remove the emphasis from the external to the internal. It forces us to, because we are pleasure-seeking, to seek pleasure on the spiritual level, Paramatma and Brahma. That text 39. Dear Prabhu, a member of the twice-born classes is born with three kinds of debts. Those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to the forefathers. That if he leaves his body without liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying scriptures, and begetting children, he will fall into a hellish condition. The purport concerning the special obligation of a Brahman, the Shruti says, whenever a Brahman takes birth, three debts are born along with him. He can pay his debt to the sages by celibacy, his debt to the demigods by sacrifice, and his debt to the forefathers by begetting children. So first here they talk about householders in general. We will now hear 41. But you, now it's different, but you, O magnanimous soul, are already free from two of your debts, those to the sages and the forefathers. Now absolve yourself of your debt to the demigods by executing Vedic sacrifices, and in this way free yourself of debt and renounce all material shelter. 41. O Vasudeva, without a doubt, you must have previously worshipped Lord Hari, the master of all worlds. Both you and your wife must have perfectly worshipped him with supreme devotion, since he has accepted the role of your son. So indeed, Prishni and Sutaba, in their previous life, in their demigod parts, yeah, Prishni and Sutaba has done this. We'll read the purport of 41. Yeah, this is a famous verse, the Varshiputat and Nirinam Pitrinam. So can someone read, please?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti clarifies the sage's mood as follows. We have answered you, who questioned us in the manner of ordinary discourse, in the same ordinary way. In truth, however, since you are eternally liberated Father of the Supreme Lord, neither worldly customs nor the injunctions of Scripture have any authority over you. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the very name Vasudeva indicates that Vasudeva manifests brilliantly the super excellent wealth of the pure devotional service. In the 12th canto, Narada will again meet with Vasudeva and at that time remind him, Devashi Bhutapta Nirnam Pritinam Na Kinkaro Nayam Prinina Rajan Sarvatmana Ya Sarvam Saranyam Gato Mukundam Parihrita Kartam. Maharaj, can you scroll? Yeah, thank you. O king, one who has given up all material duties and have taken full shelter of the lotus field of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even his forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.41. Thank you.
That's a famous verse, thank you. So Narada Muni and the other sages, they already know this. There were three interactions. First there was Krishna and the sages, Krishna respecting the sages, and then the sages explained the purpose of the Vedas. Then third interaction between Vasudeva and the sages. They explain the process to attain the goal of the Vedas. Have your body, mind and words focused on pleasing the Lord. If the Lord who is worshipped, it is the Lord who is worshipped. It is not the ceremony that is the essential part. It is having your body, mind and word focused on pleasing the Lord. It is important because we have the tendency to become completely absorbed on activity, and then we don't bring the consciousness in the activity while we are performing it. We have the tendency to do our activities without the devotional part and do it in a mechanical way. Therefore, we are wondering why we don't get the results that we are hoping to get. That we want to bring the consciousness and the purport why we are doing it into the process. The consciousness is the part of the process. Devotional service is different from karma yoga. We do the activity and then offer the results to Krishna. But we take the consciousness, I'm doing it for Krishna, into the activity. The Prabhupada Priya, please.
Raj, it seems contradictory that the sages are saying that, they're acknowledging that Vasudeva has previously worshipped the Lord with supreme devotion, but then they're also saying that you need to absolve yourself of your debt to the demigods by executing Vedic sacrifices. So it doesn't make sense. Can you explain why they're saying that he's still indebted to the demigods even though he's already worshipped the Supreme Lord perfectly?
Yeah, that's again, you have to see the context. That there are all these sages, and many of them have no idea what prema means. So it speaks on the level of the sages who are instructing on the varnashram level and the duties and so on. That, yes, that's what our commentators write here, that he is already free from this debt because of this verse, Devashipatapninam Pitrinam, that so Vasudeva is already free, is already pure, he is on the platform of prema. But these instructions which are giving there, based on the Vedic principles, they are for millions of people to come. The sages speak for everyone. And prema is confidential. All these people, they don't know about bhakti and prema, and that therefore he advises them to do the sacrifices for Vishnu. If they are engaged in regular devotional service, no need. But that's not mentioned here. The Acharya is mentioned in the purport. But he gives that because if he does not give that instruction, then all these people will be bewildered. So that's the point. These sages, they are speaking about the Vedic principles. They are not speaking about bhakti here. But because bhakti is confidential. That, of course, if they would have explained bhakti, but many of these sages are not on that platform. The teachings of the four Kumaras, this teaching liberation, they are also there. They are not teaching bhakti. Yes, does that make sense?
Yeah, I was thinking it almost seems to me that it's different sages that are talking. Sometimes it's different because there's a group of sages there. So it looks like one group of sages said text 40, and then another group said, another sage who was more realized and understood that if you worship the Lord, you don't need to worship the demigods. Spoke text 41.
Yes.
Is there an interpretation of that in the commentaries?
Yes, that could also be. But they put all the Vedic principles central. That, yes, that. So without doubt you must have previously worshipped Lord Hari, the master of all worlds. But you and your wife must have perfectly worshipped him with supreme devotion. So, since he has accepted your son. So that's someone who knows about bhakti, yes. But it's still presented in such a way, yeah, that it's not straightforward that they are saying, oh, you don't have to do these sacrifices. That because they are all speaking in harmony. That, but like you said, some are more advanced than others. That's true. That's a nice comment. Mother Sitarani, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, it also seems that in 41, the sages are basically instructing general householders in the garb of instructing Vasudev.
Yeah.
And in the 41, they acknowledge that Vasudev doesn't really fall in that category.
Yeah, right. Because Vasudeva had asked instructions about karma yoga. And first they answer on that level. And then they speak about devotion here. That the Lord has reciprocated with your devotion. Therefore, it took the role of being your son. So they understood that, yes, taking in account, first they answer the question of karma yoga, but Vasudev is not on that level of karma yoga, but he thinks himself on that level. But first they answer on that level. That's therefore, yeah, that's what the answer is geared towards, to answering that question of Vasudev. Any further comments, please? Okay, then we continue. Yeah, text 42. Sukadev Goswami said, after hearing these statements of the sages, generous Vasudev bowed his head to the ground and praising them requested them to become his priests. That, so Vasudev bowed down on the ground and yeah, I request them to become his priest because he wants to do a sacrifice now. Vasudev's question was, how can I become free from the reactions of karma? And their response was, you perform sacrifices. And now he's going to do that, the sacrifices. And now he's asking, yes, you say that I should do these sacrifices. You can be my priest, please. That the next verse is more the story that we hear, not much deep philosophy. Thus requested by him, O king, the sages engaged the pious Vasudeva in performing the fire sacrifices at that holy place of Kurukshetra, according to the strict religious principles and with most excellent ritual arrangements. This text 44. When Maharaj Vasudeva was about to be initiated for the sacrifice, O king, the Vrishnis came to the initiation pavilion after bathing and putting on fine clothes and garlands of lotuses. The other kings also came, elaborately ornamented, as well as their joyful queens, who wore jeweled lockets around their necks and were also clad in fine garments. The royal wives were anointed with sandalwood paste and carried auspicious items for worship. So they were all joyous. That atmosphere is very auspicious. The auspicious atmosphere brings joy to the heart. Inauspiciousness brings distress and misery. 46. I will now read the verses. This is a description of the sacrifice. We will read up to nearly the end all these descriptions. That it's technical sometimes. Mridangas, patas, conchals, berries, anakas, and other instruments resounded. Male and female dancers danced, and sutas and magadas recited glorifications. Sweet-voiced Gandharvis sang, accompanied by their husbands. After Vasudev's eyes had been decorated with black cosmetic and his body smeared with fresh butter, the priest initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him and his 18 wives with sacred water. Encircled by his wives, he resembled the regal moon encircled by stars. Vasudev received initiation along with his wives, who wore silk saris and were adorned with bangles, necklaces, ankle bells, and earrings. With his body wrapped in a deerskin, Vasudev shone splendidly. My dear Maharaj Parikshit, Vasudev's priests and the officiating members of the assembly, dressed in silk dhotis and jeweled ornaments, looked so effulgent that they seemed to be standing in the sacrificial arena of Indra, the killer of Vritra. At that time, Balaram and Krishna, the lords of all living entities, shone with great majesty in their company of their respective sons, wives, and other family members, who were expansions of their opulences, performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifice according to the proper regulations. Vasudev worshipped the Lord of all sacrificial paraphernalia, mantras and rituals. He executed both primary and secondary sacrifices, offering oblations to the sacred fire and carrying out other aspects of sacrificial worship. So the purport describes the kind of Vedic sacrifices. Then, at the appropriate time and according to scripture, Vasudev remunerated the priests by decorating them with precious ornaments, though they were already richly adorned, and offering them valuable gifts of cows, land, and marriageable girls. After supervising the Patni Samjaya rituals, the great Brahmin sages bathed in Lord Parasuram's lake with the sponsor of the sacrifice, Vasudev, who led them. So the sacrifice was concluded. His sacred bath complete, Vasudev joined with his wife in giving the jewelry and clothes they had been wearing to the professional reciters. Vasudev then put on garments, after which he honored all classes of people by feeding everyone, even the dogs. So comment, Mother Prabhupada, please.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was just thinking that this was a nice thing to do because previously we were hearing about how the different groups were talking, you know, like the women were talking in one place, the men were talking in another place, the queens and Draupadi were talking in another place. And this sacrifice was something which brought everybody together, and everybody, you know, participated in different ways, and it created an atmosphere and kept everybody, because it was an eclipse, they were there for the purpose of, you know, they'd gone there to avoid the inauspicious influence of the eclipse.
Yeah.
And so this was something which would make just give, you know, there it is down there at Kurukshetra. So this gave everybody something to do and something which made them come together and feel good about counteracting the inauspiciousness by doing something very
Yes,
auspicious.
even the horses, the dogs, everyone was fed here. So everyone was included. That's a very nice comment. Muralidhar Shyam Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Am I audible, Maharaj?
Yes, a little weak, but we hear you.
Okay, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaj. Sorry, Maharaj. When it comes to dogs, where I've seen in a question when they're asking how did Vasudeva keep the dogs at Kurukshetra. So, is it he worshipping or just feeding, Maharaj?
Well, here it is feeding the dogs. They are included in the festivities. So at the end of the sacrifice, he was feeding the horses, the dogs, everyone, all living entities.
So, feeding also considers the worship, Maharaj?
Please?
My question, Maharaj, is feeding also is considered worship, Maharaj?
Feeding is also and then I don't understand what you said.
Is it considered to be worshipped as well?
Confidentially, hey, I don't understand it. I try my best.
He's
But
asking if feeding is worship.
please, you speak all together. if one of you speak, then I can understand. If you can translate what he wants to say, then.
But he's saying that feeding also can also be considered as worship.
As worship, that here we the feeding the dogs is the conclusion of the sacrifice and part of the worship. But it is part of the sacrifice. At the end, you worship all living entities by feeding them. It's not that we go on the street and we start to worship and do puja for the dogs. No, we don't do that. You have to see it here in the context.
Sorry, Maharaj. The reason I'm asking now, even a devotee have a dog inside the house, Maharaj. So when they see this, so I thought maybe they take it in a different way, Maharaj. So this is the reason I'm asking question, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's clear, yeah.
Of course, Krishna is in the heart of the dog. That so if you offer some prasad to the dog, yes, and you are conscious that Krishna is in the heart with the idea of pleasing Krishna's living entities and giving them prasad so that they can also advance. That, yeah, but it's not a general practice. But, it's not something which we include in our sadhana. Is that okay? Good. Let's go back to the next verses. More descriptions. With opulent gifts, he honored his relatives, including all their wives and children. The royalty of the Vidarbha, Kosala, Kura, Kashi, Kekaya, and Srinjaya kingdoms, the officiating members of the assembly, and also the priests witnessing the demigods, humans, spirits, forefathers, and charanas, that they honored all of them. Then, taking permission from Lord Krishna, the shelter of the gods of fortune, the various guests departed as they all chanted the glories of Vasudev's sacrifice. The Yadus were all embraced by their friends, close family members, and other relatives, including Dhritarashtra and his younger brother Vidura, Pritha and her sons Bhishma, Drona, the twins Nakula and Sadev, Narad, and Vedavyas, the personality of Godhead, their hearts melting with affection. And these and the other guests left for their kingdoms, their progress slowed by the pain of separation. Nanda Maharaj showed his affection for his relatives, the Yadus, by remaining with them a little longer, together with his cowards. During his stay, Krishna, Balaram, Ugrasena and the others honored with him with especially opulent worship. So nearly everyone left, but the cowards of Braj, they remained. We will read the commentary of 59, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nanda was worshipped by much more profusely even than the sons of Pandu by Vasudeva. This is indicated by the word too. This was possible because after all the others departed, Nanda did not depart for a long time. We will hear about that more at the end. Text 60. Having so easily crossed over the vast ocean of his ambition, Vasudeva felt fully satisfied in the company of his many well-wishers that he took Nanda by the hand and addressed him as follows. So in 4 verses, Vasudeva speaks now to Nanda Maharaj. And he says, "My dear brother, God himself has tied the knot called affection. It tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even great heroes and mystics find it very difficult to free themselves from it. Indeed, the Supreme Lord must have created the bonds of affection, for such exalted saints as you have never stopped showing much less friendship towards us ingrates, although it was never being properly reciprocated." So Vasudeva is saying to Nanda Maharaj, look what you did for us when we were in difficulty. We had no other choice. We brought our sons to you. And you took so nicely care of them. So after Krishna killed Kamsa, and we were out of the difficulty, you with all your affection, receiving nothing from us. You did us such a wonderful favor, and we could not reciprocate. We kept far away from you and did not see you until this moment. 63. Previously, dear brother, we did nothing to benefit you because we were unable to. Yet even now you are present before us. Our eyes are so blinded by the intoxication of material good fortune that we continue to ignore you. And the last words of Vasudeva, O most respectful one, may a person who wants the highest benefit in life never gain kingly opulence, for it leaves him blind to the needs of his own family and friends. So we have now heard these 4 verses of Vasudeva speaking to Nanda Maharaj. Now we go back and we'll read the purpose of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. First 61. I think these bonds of affection are hard to cut for warriors by their strength, or hard to give up by yogis by their knowledge. The extra verb turbidam should be added. The meaning is you two are firmly day and night bound by the ropes of affections to my 2 sons. 62. That friendship which is incomparable and irreparable, bestowed by saintly persons in the form of yourselves upon us, By bestowing the great treasure of firm affection upon Krishna and Balaram, will certainly never cease. Who are we? We are ungrateful, not acknowledging the help you render to us. The help you render to us. Therefore we are not saintly. Therefore we are not ashamed to even speak this to you, who are so saintly. While living under the tyranny of Kamsa, Vasudeva was unable to do anything to help Nanda, and his subjects defend themselves against the many demons sent from Mathura to kill Krishna and Balaram. So, a person should not obtain wealth and kingdom. The addition of A is abut in poetic license, putting Nanda into the ocean of great humility by his praises. Vasudeva also became submerged in humility, as indicated by his words. Vasudeva thus recognizes the love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda for Krishna. Shukadev Goswami said, his heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda had shown him. So, and on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 months, honored by all the Yadus. That 66. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti's comment is interesting. Can someone read, please? It's on the screen.
Then after 3 months, Nanda said, O Krishna, whose one drop of face perspiration is worshipped by millions living in deity, immediately go to the Vraja. I cannot spend any more time here. O friend of Vasudeva, please send Krishna to Vraja. O King Yudhishthira, you give the order to Vasudeva, my dear friend. If you do not do so, we will just now die before your eyes in the holy land of Kurukshetra. We did not come on the occasion of the eclipse to obtain pious credit, but all of us in Vraja were convinced in our heart that if we did not see Krishna, we would die, and if we saw Krishna, we would live. Saying this, being satisfied by millions of ornament and all desirable things, he departed.
Thank you. Maybe someone can read the second paragraph?
Then Vasudeva, being knowledgeable of time, place, and person, was advised by friends, spoke to satisfy Nanda. O friend, king of Braj, you speak truthfully. How can I approve of any malice towards friends like you? Therefore, by all means, I will send Krishna to Braj. But now let him send all of us with relatives, friends, and women to Dwaraka. Then on another day, at an auspicious moment, let him go to Braj with no obstruction. I swear to this more than 1,000 times. We have come with Krishna. Without him, how can we return home? What will people say? You are learned in all matters. Please permit this. Please tell me my offense in requesting this to you.
You can continue.
Ugrasen said, O King of Braj, I have been the surety of this. I swear to it. Even by force, I will send Krishna to Braj. In the private place, Krishna said along. In the private place, Krishna said along Uddhav and Balaram, O father, if I give them up today and go to Braj, they will be close to death out of separation from me. Thousands of enemies stronger than Keshi or Arishta will kill these kings. Being omniscient, I know of my own future. Please listen while I speak. Returning to Dwaraka, I will then take advice and go to the Rajasuya sacrifice of Yudhishthir. There I will kill Shishupal and returning to Dwaraka will kill Shalva. To kill Dantavakra, I will then go near the south gate of Mathura. Killing him, I will enter Braj, see you, joyfully associate with you, and spend this life performing various playful pastimes. That has been written on my forehead by the Creator. It is written on your forehead that you will suffer in separation from me until the time that I return. It is not possible to prevent these two fated situations from happening. Therefore, give up your stubbornness and return to Braj. During that time, my friends and my parents and my dear friends, you will have gained. You will be pained thinking you must suffer in separation as fated. But whenever you want to see me, feed me, or play with me, you should just close your eyes. I will appear, making all your difficulties insignificant. I will fulfill all your desires. This I promise. My friends afflicted with heat from the forest fire will testify.
Someone else can read.
Nanda, considering what was best for his son's happiness, then said to the Vasudeva and others, I agree. Saddened by relatives, rose to incessant tears. Taking all the gifts given by them, he departed with troops provided by the Yadavas. This explanation had been given based upon two words, Kamai Puryamana, his desires all being satisfied. These words would make no sense unless there was such an explanation of Nanda being completely satisfied. For Nanda and Yashoda, who could not believe at all that Krishna was the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, even if testified by Brahma or his sons and daughters, for all material wealth and ornaments were considered trifling in comparison to just remembrance of the treasure of happiness attained by touching the back of his finger to Krishna's chin. How would it be possible to satisfy them with millions of silk and valuable furnishings given by Vasudeva? For argument's sake, even if they were satisfied or could be satisfied, the text also mentions that not only Nanda and his wife, but all inhabitants of Raja, all the Gopas and Gopis, and all his friends were satisfied. If one were to explain that Krishna's mother and father, and also all his dear Gopis and all his cowherd friends were satisfied simply by getting valuable ornaments, cloth, and jewels, and departed to Vraja, then the prema of all the inhabitants of Vraja must have disappeared. For from the statement in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is understood that the characteristic of prema is extreme possessiveness. Therefore, such an explanation should be rejected.
Hare Krishna. So we'll discuss that later. We will first read till the end. Then after Vasudeva, Ugrasena, Krishna, Uddhava, Balaram, and others had fulfilled his desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen, and varieties of priceless household furnishings. Nanda Maharaj accepted all these gifts and took his leave. Seen off by all the Yadus, he departed with his family members and the residents of Vraj. Then here, unable to withdraw their minds from Govinda's lotus feet, where they had surrendered them, Nanda and the cowherd men and women returned to Mathura. Their relatives, having thus departed and seeing that the rainy season was approaching, the Vrishnis, whose only lord was Krishna, went back to Dvarka. They told the people of the city about the festive sacrifices performed by Vasudeva, Lord of the Yadus, and about everything else that had happened during their pilgrimage, especially how they met with all their loved ones. So now, now we will have a pause. It's 4 o'clock till 4:15, and 4:15 we will be reading first from Gopal Champu, and then after that discussion. So thank you. See you. Yes, Mother Prabhupada Priya, something before we leave?
Yeah, I was, because the other day we heard about that Ratha Yatra pastime, where Krishna actually went back to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
So, but here we see that Krishna is not going to Vrindavan, he's going to Dwarka with the Vrishnis. So how does that come in?
Yeah, that is the pastime. They are going back to Dwarka. That, of course, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan is to bring them back to Vrindavan. That's their internal mood. And that's what they want. Because they feel Krishna is more pleased when they feel they are able to really please Krishna, because that's what Krishna wants, to be in Vrindavan. But yes, the pastime goes on. Krishna must go back. So this idea of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan was a sentiment of the consciousness of the Vrajavasis. But there were not only the Vrajavasis here. So yes, to go back to Dwarka, to do his duties.
So that, I mean, that Ratha Yatra pastime didn't happen in the Prakat Lila, but it was just within the minds of Krishna, Balaram, Subhadra, and the Vrajavasis.
We cannot conclude that. They were there for months, and so many things happened. It's not that everything is recorded in the Bhagavatam. But, so that's difficult to say. If it's Prakat Lila or Aprakat, but I never heard it's Aprakat. Could be Prakat, but there are other scriptures which speak about this meeting at Kurukshetra, and we read of some of them. And there can be more information there. I don't know, but I just cannot conclude that it's not a Prakrita pastime.
Because according to the description that we heard, when that Ratha Yatra, when the Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra go to Vrindavan, the gopis and all the Vrajavasis are there in Vrindavan. So if they actually left from Kurukshetra, like when this pastime is taking place, the gopis are there in Kurukshetra, they're not in Vrindavan. And all the Vrajavasis are at Kurukshetra. But the way it was narrated was that they were dying, they were in Vrindavan and almost dying of separation, and then Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra showed up.
Yeah, but then they go back because they understand the situation, that they want Krishna in Vrindavan, they cannot go with Krishna to Dwarka, that it's another mood and they are not interested in that mood. They want to please Krishna is in the mood of Vrindavan, and they go back. Yeah. That's the mood of the Vrajavasis. It's very, very particular. Does that help, or you want to say something?
I don't see how the two pastimes fit together. Like, how can they both take place in the actual Prakat Lila?
Yeah, how they fit together. this meeting at Kurukshetra, yes, internally they wanted Krishna back to Vrindavan. Internally. But they couldn't bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. But on the upper level, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. That's also. So you have always these two understandings and these two realizations. Anyway, I can not answer your question. I'm a conditioned soul. I have no Krishna consciousness. I try my best only. But yeah. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Vishalaksha Prabhu, any comment from your side?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, thank you very much, Maharaj, for nice class. Here, Maharaj, in the description, while we are describing, here we can, Narada Muni and other devotees, they are seeing Krishna as Lord Supreme Personality of Godhead. But here, Vasudeva, in fact, even Nanda Maharaj, I think, also, so they are not able to see, Krishna as a Supreme Lord. Rather, they are seeing as their own son, baby.
Yeah.
So, is there any specific reason that that mood is maintained for both of them, or is there?
Well,
because there are both are pure devotees, they know the scripture also. Still,
Vasudeva and Devaki, they have prema in the mood of Vaikuntha, in awe reference. But they have prema, and Yoga Maya covers them, restricts their consciousness, so that they can see. They can see Krishna and Balaram, but they can see them as their sons. And they have parental love, but it's mixed with awe and reverence. It means it's not so intense as the parental love. Nanda Maharaj. We have seen the intensity of parental love in this list. You remember? And Vasudeva was number 8. And Devaki, I think, was number 3. First was Yasoda, then Rohini, right? If I remember right. My weak memory.
And Devaki was 5, number 5.
Was 5, yeah. And Vasudeva was 8? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the means, I think the first was Mother Yasoda, then Rohini, then the gopis thing, and then this one. Who?
Nanda Maharaj.
Nanda Maharaj. Think of Nanda Maharaj. Yes, in the parental love. So yeah. Their love was not so intense, so they could understand some way that Krishna was also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he appeared before them in the prison with 4 arms. So they know it, but still it's covered. It's in the background. But still that they know, and still there is awe and reference. And after Krishna killed Kamsa, they became more aware of his godhood, and their prema went down. Their prema went down. But Nanda Maharaj Prema could never bow down. He said, Krishna is my son. He may be as good as Narayan, but he's my son. So, but then after killing Kamsa, then Krishna saw that their prema went down, and he ordered Yoga Maya to cover them again, and their love went up again. Does that help, Vishalaksha Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. Then we will now hear from Gopal Champu, because our time for a break is over. That I'm your servant. If you ask questions, I'm answering. But good. This will take about 20 minutes, but it's very exciting. So I hope you will be able to hear it nicely.
Everyone else left, and the Brisbasis, they all stayed.
Can you hear it? I can put
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, okay. Then I put it close to what I think the mic is, and we go.
Sending off his relatives, bound by affection, Krishna had not let any others remain. This was the purpose of the pilgrimage. Since it was not pleasant for them to be without milk, Krishna had some cows sent, and in order to fool the enemies, because there was still enemies, Krishna and the people of Braja placed their camps far apart and went on trips to various holy places in the vicinity. The people of Braja had come to Kurukshetra with Krishna as their only goal. Since they had attained Krishna, who was an ocean of nectar, their minds did not wander elsewhere. Though Nanda and Yasoda were filled with waves of bliss by their son, the young sons of Krishna also filled Nanda and Yasoda repeatedly with intense bliss, just as the rays of the moon fill the ocean with water. Yasoda in Kurukshetra played with her child many times, and sometimes became astonished, as she did previously, by that blackish child. In this way, Krishna and the Braja inhabitants became fully satisfied while not being noticed by the enemies. Krishna went many times with Balaram to the residences of the cowherds that were made of carts similar to those in Braja, and many times he went alone. In those houses, he acted just like a small child towards his mother. My mind becomes bewildered, wondering whether I was happy or sad. Taking the opportunity, Vasudeva, along with his followers, touched Nanda's hand, and they spoke to Nanda. Oh, brother, one can see something astonishing in this world created by the Lord. Even detached sages are bound by ties of affection, whereas householders like you are not. Like me, he says, are not. And this is what he means. Look, though your intelligence, O Nanda, is very sober, you are bound by our affection, whereas my affection is by duty alone, devoid of real affection. Oh, brother, although I am devoid of affection, you do not show indifference to me, and although that is so, I have no attraction to you. Without money, a man is lame. With money, he is blind. This can be seen in persons like me. When I am poor, I cannot help you, and when I am rich, I am blind and do not think of helping you. His heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship that Nanda Maharaj had shown him. What did Nanda say? He replied, he said nothing. Why? Vasudeva had taken his son, and now remembered Nanda's affection. and having affection for Vasudeva, who wanted his son, he thought it best to remain silent. Then what happened? To please his friend Vasudeva, Nanda did not reveal his desire. 3 months quickly passed in Kurukshetra because of the love he had for Krishna and Balaram. He said he would go the next day. Krishna had the unavoidable duty of killing more demons. Thus Nanda approached Vasudeva so that he could return to Braja without taking Krishna on the pretext that he had been taken away from Braja for too long, had been away for too long. He did not approach directly, but through Uddhav, since he was too shy to directly approach him. But he did not ask Krishna for permission to go through Uddhav. Previously, in separation, a moment seemed like a yuga. To see him, not knowing any other method, he quickly went to Kurukshetra for Nanda to see Krishna. He did not know any other way he could see him. He quickly went to Kurukshetra. And after associating with his son for so long, 3 months, how could he directly ask Krishna for permission to leave? How could Nanda, though he longed for Krishna, ask his dear friend Vasudeva for Krishna? Since Vasudeva depended on Krishna fully, he accepted him as his son, and he attained divine happiness from Krishna. Seeing Nanda's behavior, Vasudeva was so considerate. Nanda Maharaj was so considerate. Vasudeva, holding great affection for him, with tears and choked voice, informed Krishna and Balaram, who had great longing that Nanda come and live with them. And hearing this, Krishna, with pale face, looked at Balaram, and with folded hands, Balaram spoke frankly, "Oh, Father, we will think about this, we will decide, and we will inform you later." Considering what was best for Nanda, Krishna consulted with Rohini, full of bliss, and Balaram and Uddhava, and finally came to a decision. He then sent Balaram to inform Vasudeva, and arriving at Vasudeva's house, Balaram said, "Oh, Mother and Father, if you give me fearlessness, then I will request you with all correctness." They said, "Yes." Balaram said, "Oh, Mother and Father, you have affection for Nanda and Yashoda. Will you not fulfill their desire?" Vasudeva said, "What do they want? Or are you not aware?" Vasudeva said, "Yes, we are aware. They have such attachment to Krishna as their son. We are afraid because of this. Krishna has pure intelligence, and his nature is to be controlled by love. That will trap him." Balaram spoke with a laugh. "You were unable to protect me from birth, and you sent me from the place. They protected me. I take them as my parents, so what could be said of Krishna? He was in their house from birth by your arrangement. He accepts them as his parents, and they accept him as their son. This should be recognized. Krishna does not see you with such affection, and you do not see him with such affection. If you really took Krishna as your son, then you would have happiness, bliss, like theirs, but you do not have equal happiness to them. But what is the use of such boldness in speaking? Krishna cannot bear to see anyone suffer. Enough of such useless thinking." Vasudeva replied, "Let that be. Do what should be done." It was very beautiful. Balaram said, "Make a house resembling that in Braja, and have Krishna stay there, just as sometimes he stays in Hastinapur." Vasudeva thought to himself, "He has spoken correctly. How can Krishna, whose sons and grandsons have reached the height of excellence in household life, how can he give up the opulence of Dwarka? He then spoke aloud. Nanda and I are different in body only. Let Krishna go to Braja if he wants. He was thinking, Krishna can't leave Dwarka. He's used to Dwarka. He's used to the opulence in Dwarka. All his family is there. Let him go to Braja if he wants. Or let him stay in Dwarka if he wants. For he is the life of the people of Braja, and he is our life as well. Hearing this, Balaram left. Hearing from Balaram, Krishna offered his respects with tears in his eyes. He remained without speaking, with his swollen face lowered. Vasudev went with Krishna, Balaram, Uddhava, and Rohini to Nanda's cart camp. Meeting Nanda with proper etiquette, they spoke pleasantly. Oh, brother Nanda, Krishna is your son, and he is mine. There is no difference. Please hear the reason why Krishna has not been able to come to your house till now. You have kept Krishna with us so that the enemies will be destroyed. Krishna wants to go to your house at every moment, and he is waiting for the last enemy to be killed. Nanda and the other people of Braja became satisfied, and Sukadev describes their previous condition. With voices faltering out of love for him, those cowherds who had dedicated everything to lotus-eyed Krishna asked about the health of their dear ones in Dwarka, and Balaram, in turn, asked about the cowherds' welfare. In separation from Krishna, they had no desire for anything else. They had offered all their wealth to qualified persons for his auspiciousness, but they were unable to fulfill their long-cherished desire that Krishna return to them. Now their hearts became unsteady as they wondered if Krishna would fulfill his promise or not. Would he come to Braja or would he go to Dwarka? They began to think, oh, Krishna knows that we have always prayed that he return to Braja. It is not proper to make him give up the wealth and his relatives which he must cherish. It is also not proper to let them directly know that Krishna should come back to Braja. Establishing the conduct of Kshatriyas at Dwarka, he is bringing auspiciousness to the three worlds. He will certainly return to Braja, since he has promised this many times, and since he is always most merciful to us. That is his final vow. All our desires are centered on Krishna's attractive promise, which should lend respect to his own conduct. We desire that his vow should be fulfilled. His vow was, I'm coming. He sent a simple message to Uddhava. Krishna began to think. Using remarkable means of consolation previously, I have ultimately treated the people of Braja badly. I have not acted properly. It is not right that I speak to them with the same type of words now. I should indicate that I am coming to Braja now by sending all pleasurable things that I have enjoyed, thus accomplishing through prema whatever is included in sama, dana, beda, and danda, meaning all kinds of diplomacy. By prema, I will establish myself there. Articles which are my very life will satisfy those who take me as their very life, even if they are in Braja. Therefore, Vyasa said, then, after Vasudev, Ugrasena, Krishna, Uddhava, Balaram, and others had fulfilled his desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen, and varieties of priceless household furnishings. So it appears that these were all Krishna's remnants. What Jiva Goswami is saying. That's what Krishna's intention was. That's what it appears. Then Nanda Maharaj accepted all these gifts and took his leave. And seen off by all the Yadus, he departed with his family members and the residents of Braja. But how can I describe the condition of Nanda and his followers on leaving? That condition remains in my mind. Their articulation of speech, of speaking, the complexions of their bodies disappeared. Understanding that their strength of body and mind were weak, and thus subject to an attack by the enemy on the pretext of a gift, Krishna and many servants and foot soldiers accompanied them. Nanda and the cowherds with difficulty left Kurukshetra and reached the area of Mathura. To reach their houses, they crossed the Yamuna with minds detached from their previous residence, and had the people live at a well-known place called Gorai, far from their previous residence. Does anyone know what that place is, Gorai? I've never heard of it. In Sanskrit, the name is Gokulapati. In vernacular, it is Gorava, and in slang, Brajavasa language, Gorai. Gokulapati is famous as the residence of Nanda. As the place belonging to Purushottam is called Purushottam, so the place belonging to the Gokulapati, Nanda is called Gokulapati. Speaking, and then grieving for a moment, the speaker introduced a pleasant subject, as this is the narration, to conclude. I offer respects to the path from Kurukshetra to Braja, where Nanda stayed, since it is auspicious and attractive. Krishna was able to relieve his pain of separation from his Braja friends by thinking of this auspicious path, because it is the path to Braja. So Krishna thought of that. On hearing the words of Vasudeva, there's a little more. Oh, not these words. This son of yours is yours and mine. There is no difference. On hearing this, the gopis thought that those words indicated Krishna as their object of service in the future, and thus those words gave them joy. But with choked voices, these gopis said, "Though he is delaying so long, why does he delay with us?" Hearing this through Uddhav, Krishna in shame gave an order. I have previously described this. My dear girlfriends, do you still remember me? It was for my relative's sake that I stayed away so long, intent on destroying my enemies. I am delayed slightly longer. That's from the 82nd chapter that we've already heard. I am delayed slightly longer because a few more enemies must be destroyed. Please wait for a few days as previously until there is good fortune for you and me. Accepting that these words were not untrue, at another time they met him and spoke of Krishna. Can your true words ever be pronounced otherwise? If time can tolerate our hope, and if we could stay alive until you return, your words will be proven true. Embracing each gopi, Krishna accepted this. When you accept Krishna, your condition is permeated with time, very mysterious. In that condition, ordinary time has no jurisdiction. Very interesting. When you accept Krishna, your condition is permeated with time, but in that condition, ordinary time has no jurisdiction. Though the night before the morning, when the people would travel to the area of Mathura, ended quickly for the gopis in Kurukshetra, because that seems to have happened on the night before. That night, bringing pain of separation, did not desire to end. Fear was the cause of not wanting to end the night of bringing separation that would happen the next day. And fear was the cause of ending the night, so that Krishna's plan of killing the demons could be fulfilled. The narrator concluded, "O Radha, Kurukshetra is amazing. The seed of promise that Krishna planted there, and in Braja, that I'm returning, sprouted in Kurukshetra, because they got together again, but it bore fruit in Braja. The Lord of your heart, for whom you went to Kurukshetra with a firm vow, and for whom you gave up your houses and went to the forest, is embracing you all and living here. What greater happiness than this? What pages? Oh, that's what pages? And the chapter is entitled Nanda Maharaj leaves, something like that. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna, that was Bhujam Prabhu reading from Gopal Shankar. Very nice to conclude this pastime. Any further questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Pavitra, please.
Maharaj, in text number 7.
7. From chapter 84?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, let's bring that on the screen. Text 7. A moment. Go there. Yes.
Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and the other kings and leaders properly worship the sages by offering them words of greetings, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense, and sandalwood paste. Maharaj, outside of India, we also welcome priests like Reverend Fathers, Muslim leaders. Should we worship them the same way?
That, well, these are sages. Then the question is, what are sages? That of course, respect should always be given, but my understanding is that these are Vedic traditions. And these sages, what was specific to them, that was, they were explaining the Vedic principles. The Vedic principles. They were Brahmins, they were the head of the Varnashram society. So there's a difference. Those who are coming outside, they usually don't explain the Vedic principles. That they cannot be considered the Brahmins or the head of society and so on. So my understanding is that this kind of welcome is reserved for the sages in the context here. That does not mean that we should not give respect to representatives, high representatives of other religion. Does that make sense, Pavitra?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Mother Kasturica, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapatyante. That means however one comes to Krishna, he reciprocates. So this is very, astonishing how the Brajavasis want to, they pour down so much love, but somehow the other Krishna gives reasons why not to reciprocate in their way. So how do we understand?
Yeah, the consciousness or the prema of the Vrajavasis is on a very exceptional level. Then, and Krishna has said before, Naparyaham, I cannot repay you, I cannot reciprocate on the level of your prema. You will have to be satisfied with your own service. That's what Krishna said before to the gopis. He could not repay them. We have heard the pastime of Sudama. There Sudama gave him something beyond his own possession. And Krishna also felt not that he could reciprocate, because there is nothing beyond Krishna's possession. So it's so Krishna is sometimes in a difficult position that he cannot fully reciprocate. But of course the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatamam prapachyante tam stataiv bhajamaham, that means also on other levels that Krishna also reciprocates with the jnanis, with the yogis, that allowing them to attain Brahman realization or Paramatma realization, or he reciprocates with the karma kandis by offering them the results, fruitive results they desire. So Krishna reciprocates on many levels with everyone according to their desire. And we will see that also in the last pastime we will discuss together on Sunday, Shrutadev. Krishna will visit his devotee Shrutadev. So he reciprocates with Shrutadev, that with his devotion he will go to Mithila and first visit King Baulasva and then Shrutadev. And Shrutadev said, yeah, when he sees Krishna, he starts to dance out of joy, and he says, Krishna, since I came to this material world, you have always been with me in the heart, and you have always reciprocated with me, with my desires in this world. And after so many lifetimes, I meet you personally. Nice to see you, and he's full of joy. So he's aware Krishna reciprocates also with the conditioned souls according to their desires and what they deserve. So Krishna on different levels reciprocates with everyone. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, but I also have another question.
Yeah.
Like, as aspiring devotees, sometimes it does makes us very, at least make me doubtful. What if I go there and Krishna doesn't reciprocate? Because I'm looking for reciprocation in all my relationships. So if I won't be satisfied and Krishna doesn't reciprocate, then why would I aspire for it? You know? So how?
That's interesting, yeah. But of course, Krishna reciprocates, but many times not like the reciprocation we want, but the reciprocation he wants. And that, that is the path of devotional service. It's becoming an instrument in the path on the path what Krishna wants. That so like Srila Prabhupada went to America on the Aladuta, he wrote, Krishna, that please use me as a puppet on strings. Use me in your service as you like. So Krishna will bring you in different situations. And yeah, we don't know. We make plans. But then things change. My plan was to go in May to the Ukraine, where I'm preaching regularly, 2 months a year. And now this war is coming up and so on. The devotees are in anxiety. So it's not my plan, but I'm satisfied and I will do something else during that time. I change my plans. So many times when we feel unsatisfied, it's due to material desires. We have expectations for ourselves. And if Krishna does not reciprocate with my expectations, then my faith is going down. And one gets in a crisis. But Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita to learn whatever good or bad happens in one's life, one must accept as Krishna's mercy. One must come above this duality of good and bad. Because if we have desires and Krishna does not reciprocate with our desires, and we become frustrated, that means that our desires are not real. That we have still to cleanse the heart. And it's a process of becoming tolerant and humble, going to one crisis after another, but we should never lose our faith in Krishna. Without Krishna consciousness, we are completely lost. And finally, the fact that it's not reciprocating as we desire may means that what we desire is not good for us. If we desire honor or whatever, and Krishna does not give his devotees who are sincere, that's not good for them, for their spiritual life. So yeah, at least that's my experience, and that's the process of anartha nivritti, and we are still experiencing that anartha nivritti is a long process, a long time, but gradually we make progress. Does that help?
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you. Muralidhar Shyam Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance Maharaj. Sorry to, Maharaj, this is my previous chapter question Maharaj. Can I ask Maharaj?
Yeah, but it's on a specific verse.
Yes Maharaj, this is verse number, chapter 83, verse number 41 to 42 Maharaj, in a purport.
41, 42.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are nearly there. One. Here, yeah. And what's your question?
Yeah, Maharaj. The purport, Maharaj, it started with Lord Krishna Queen, Maharaj. The third paragraph, Maharaj.
The Lord.
Yeah, the top, Maharaj. Maharaj, whatever my question, Maharaj, normally that we say that Queen of Dwarka is a Lakshmi. This is what basically I heard, but this statement here in this purport was saying that the Queen of Dwarka more superior than this Lakshmi Maharaj. So how to understand this, Maharaj?
I don't understand your question, but first, and I don't find the point in the purport.
There, Maharaj, in the third paragraph, Maharaj.
Third paragraph, Lord Krishna's queens.
Yeah. The stated did not desire anything, then you say that that goddess of fortune mentioned here, not Lakshmi.
Lord Queens clearly state that they do not desire any of these powers or even the position of Brahma, liberation or entrance into the kingdom of God. They simply want the dust from Krishna's feet, which Goddess Shri herself worships. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti tells us that the goddess of fortune mentioned here is not Lakshmi, the consort of Narayan. After all, the Acharya explains Goddess Lakshmi could not attain the direct association of Krishna, even after performing extended austerities, as Uddhava states. Nayam Shingha u Nitantara te prasada. Rather, the Shri referred to here is the supreme goddess of fortune, identified by the Brihad Gaudya Tantra. The transcendental goddess Srimati Radharani is a direct counterpart of Lord Shri Krishna. So she is the central figure of all gods of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to all attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval, eternal potency of the Lord. Yes.
Yes, Maharaj. Normally that we heard, not we heard, I heard, they say Queen of Dwarka is Lakshmi. Then this prophet was saying that they are not Lakshmi, that's a Narayana concept. So how to understand this subject, Maharaj?
The queen of the most prominent queen of Krishna in Dwarka is Rukmini. Rukmini is representing the goddess of Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. But factually, the 8 queens in Dwarka are expansions of Srimati Radharani. That's mentioned here because they are Vaikuntha expansions. And this verse is about Mamata, O saintly lady, but the woman is speaking here because you need to understand the context, previous verse. Rohini Devi is speaking for the other queens. Said after killing Baumasura and his followers, the Lord found us in the demon's prison and could understand that we were the daughters of the kings whom Bauma had defeated during his conquest of the earth. The Lord set us free, and because we had been constantly meditating upon his lotus feet, the source of liberation from material entanglement, he agreed to marry us, though his every desire is already fulfilled. So she's speaking for the other 16,000 which were liberated from Baumasur. And then this verse is said, O saintly lady, we do not desire dominion over the earth, the sovereignty of the King of Heaven, unlimited facility for enjoyment, mystic power, the position of Brahma, immortality, or even attainment of the kingdom of God. We simply desire to carry our heads the glorious dust of the lotus feet, enriched by the fragrance of kumkum from the consort's bosom. So this is the 16,000 queens, and here in the purport it said Lord Krishna's queens clearly do not desire, not state that they do not desire any of these powers or even the position of Brahma, liberation and so on. They simply want the dust from Krishna's feet, which goddess Sri herself worships. They want the dust from Sri Krishna's feet. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti tells us that the gods of fortune mentioned here is not Lakshmi, consort of Narayan. So it's not Lakshmi, this Sri, but Goddess Lakshmi could not attain the direct association of Krishna. That so it tells us the gods of fortune mentioned here is not Lakshmi. Yeah, but that is what they say. They simply want the dust from lotus feet, with goddess Sri herself worships. Yeah. That the goddess Sri. That just it's not Lakshmi, the consort of Narayan, that they are mentioning. That it's just a comment of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It has no direct no direct relationship with these queens of Dwarka, the 16,000 queens. That's what they are saying. They are saying the goddess of fortune mentioned here is, yeah, they refer to the goddess of fortune, and Vishwanath Chakravarti says it's not Lakshmi, this goddess of fortune, because she could not attain the direct association even after performing austerities. She did austerities to enter Vraj, but she could not worship directly Krishna in Vrindavan. So that's just mentioned to us. So what's your doubt about that, Prabhu?
Normally that we heard Maharaj that now they say that Queen of Dwarka are Lakshmis. So this is my doubt, Maharaj. So
The
where
queen of Dharma of Dwarka are expansions of Lakshmi. They are expansions of Srimati Radharani that in Vaikuntha, and they are also considered goddesses of fortune. That yes, but the gods of fortune mentioned here, well, they speak about, is not the Lakshmi of Vaikuntha, because they are speaking about her in relation to Krishna. They are speaking here that we simply desire to carry our heads to the glorious dust of Lord Krishna's feet, enriched with fragrance of the cocoon from his concerts. Awesome. That I don't know. It's not in the verse. Was it in the previous verse? No. It's not in the verse. They clearly state that they do not desire any of these powers, position of Brahma, liberation, or entrance into the kingdom of God. They simply want the dust of Krishna's feet, which God is herself. Yeah. So if they are Lakshmis, they are not the Lakshmi of Vaikuntha, because she could not get the dust of Krishna's lotus feet. And these 60,000 queens of Dwarka, they could get Krishna's lotus, the dust of Krishna's lotus feet. So it cannot be the Lakshmi of Vaikuntha. That is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. But there are also Lakshmis, expansions of the gopis Radharani. So, what doubt you have further, Prabhu?
because there are some questions in question bank, Maharaj. So this way it make me to
Yeah, I did not study these questions in the question bank, and that's also not
They say who.
that's also not my function. I'm not going to study it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something they, from the VIG, they gave you these questions, and you have to find your own answer. I don't know the answer because I don't know the question. I have to see the question on the screen, study deeply, and try to understand what the question means, and then I can answer it. But without getting the question, I cannot answer it.
Let me check it more.
Okay, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank
Something
you.
else?
No, Maharaj, that's all, Maharaj.
Someone else? I mean, no. Then we will continue tomorrow. We will continue with the next chapter. The next chapter there, Krishna will instruct Vasudeva, Devaki. He will instruct them that and Krishna will retrieve the sons of Devaki. So that will be another exciting chapter, chapter 85. Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva and retrieves Devaki's sons. So, thank you very much. See you
Thank you,
tomorrow.
Maharaj.
Thank you,
Hare
Maharaj.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Jai.